Well, good morning, everybody. A pretty good crowd today. I'll call the meeting to order and start with these introductory remarks. I'd like to make clear for the record that this meeting is being conducted as permitted under AB 361 and Board Resolution 2022-10. Today's meeting is presented in a hybrid format, in person at CVWD's Steve Robbins Administration Building and via Zoom. AB 361 suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act, allowing district board members to participate in person or by video conference. Members of the public may participate in person or via Zoom. Zoom details are listed on the meeting agenda, and the meeting is streamed live on the district's website and YouTube channel. Members of the public who wish to comment on any item on the agenda or within the jurisdiction of the district will have 3 minutes. Public comment may be provided in person, via Zoom, or by emailing the clerk of the board. Such comments will become part of the board meeting record. And we do have one or two of our board members attending remotely today, so I'll make sure to call on them specifically before we move things, and we will do everything by a roll call vote. Okay. So would you please stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's see, do we have any additions, deletions, or adjustments for
No, sir.
today? I'm not aware of any.
Would we like to do a roll call?
You know, I was going to say too, I also skipped the part where I said where we are and what day it is, just in case, you know, there's a technical glitch.
Yes.
So this is a regular meeting of the Coachella Valley Water District Board of Directors. It's May 10th, 2022 here in Palm Desert. And yeah, let's do the roll call, please.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, President Powell
Here.
and Vice President Estrada. Let me just make sure he hasn't joined us online. Nope, and I will note when he does join us. Director Bianco,
Here.
Director Aguilar,
Here.
and Director Nelson. Are you muted, Director Nelson? I see you, and I saw you say here.
Moving.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Gotcha. Good. All right. Yeah. So you'll note Director Estrada's arrival online. We don't have any additions or deletions that we're aware of.
Correct.
All right. So public comment. Does anyone wish to make public comment at this time? I think we have a card, right?
Do Mr. Brad Anderson? You can come up to this podium, make sure the microphone light is on, and then you'll have 3 minutes. You can stand or sit, up to you. Let's check. The light should turn blue.
Thank you. My name is Brad Anderson. I currently live in the city of Rancho Mirage. I just wanted to comment on item 6C, and that's concerning the Porcupine Creek Ranch, I guess it's called, and serving back easements that was acquired by the Water District years ago. I'm opposed to this at this time because I'm unclear, well, the staff report was unclear of exactly how much of the easement would be, well, I guess what I'm more or less saying is there was a $115,000 agreement compared to a property out in Thousand Palms, and I don't have I don't know how to compare that with the easements that the Water District would be releasing back to the Porcupine Ranch organization, and I think that's it. I'm concerned about the staff report because one of the properties outlined was actually not the property that was indicated being owned by another third party. It was owned by a land trust, and this is just my research. And the photographs that was attached may have been taken back in 2020, but today's photographs show that the Water District is actively constructing a new water tank on a location very close to that location, the proposed location, or the proposed location that's really not the location that's outlined in the draft report or the report itself. And that's all I have. I'm just opposed to this at this time because of information that I don't have, and that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And Mr. Anderson did also provide a public comment letter, which
Right,
was
which
distributed to
we
the
do
board.
have that.
And will become part of the record.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to make public comment at this time?
If we have
Hey,
members.
John, sorry
Oh, there he is.
to interrupt. This is Peter. I just wanted to check in to see if you could hear me okay.
Yes, I can.
Okay, I've lost the video feed from the district, but other than that, I can hear you very well. Thank you.
Okay, let me.
Okay. We don't move that much, so if you took a screenshot earlier, you could probably just use that.
Good enough.
If we move, it'll turn the
So-
camera back on.
Because we don't have stream going out from this board meeting out to allow members of the public to participate, if I may ask the board to take a quick break to allow us to address the technical issues pursuant to AB 361. So we'll go ahead and
Okay,
take a
so
quick pause.
We'll just pause the meeting until the
Yes.
stream comes back up.
Yep.
Just
we're
let
gonna
us know.
Work on a couple of things.
Thank you. Finish my. right, so we're good now? All right, so we're going to resume the meeting. We do not have a video feed, but we do have an audio feed, so I've been informed that that does meet the requirements of our
Of AB
Brown,
361.
of AB 361, yeah. So on we go. And I think we were at the point where we were asking if we had any other public comment. I don't know if anyone's arrived online since then.
I do not see any, and if there is somebody who would like to speak during public comment, if you could please use the raise hand feature in Zoom.
Okay. So we do have employee recognitions, moves us on to 5A on the agenda. A number of them listed. Retirements, we had Ophelia Navarro with 25 years. George Escobedo with 19 years. And Steve Hodges with 14 years. We also have attending today Michael Stenzel, retiring with 30 years. That's a nice round number. Mike began his career with the district in October 1991 as a laboratory technician and worked his way up to chemist. He had been primarily responsible for metals analyses using atomic absorption spectroscopy and anion and hexavalent chromium analyses using ion chromatography leading up to his retirement. During this time at the district, Mike trained and mentored newer hires on various lab procedures and performed laboratory reporting when needed. Some of this stuff I didn't even know we do, so we're going to read it all because it's interesting. Mike's career highlights include achieving his grade 3 water quality analyst certification from the AWWA, running the inductively coupled plasma instrument for metal analysis, providing input to the design and layout of the new lab at the Palm Desert Critical Support Services building, processing thousands of samples related to the evaluation of treatment processes such as for arsenic and Chrome-6, playing an instrumental role in setting up and implementing 3 versions of the LIMS during his career, and taking pride and ownership in keeping the lab running smoothly. During his retirement, Mike looks forward to traveling and revisiting some of his past hobbies such as archery, scuba diving, and snow skiing. He also plans to do more camping and fishing with his family. So come on up, Michael, and well done.
I'm not touching that.
Don't drop it.
I can give you the box.
That's great.
And the photo for the wherever we put the photos.
For the members. On 3, nice smile. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three.
So now it's your opportunity to say anything you want.
It's been a wild ride, a fun ride. I'm already missing people I've worked with. Walked into Sun George. Yeah, I mean, all the friendships that I've made. I hope we're still there. I hope I still get to see everybody here and there around the valley.
Yeah, if we ever have the recognition dinner again, you're welcome to come back as a retiree.
I didn't realize Bolivia was sitting behind me. When she first started in the lab.
She's probably only here because of you right now. What was your most favorite, I guess, analysis protocol thing that you did that you enjoyed the most? I don't know what half of those things were that John read.
Well, when I got hired, I was hired to help with the backlog on our radioactivity samples, the drinking water. And so basically doing the gross alpha and gross beta testing, uranium analysis.
Okay.
That was kind of fun. But that didn't last very long, then we got decommissioned. I don't have to do that anymore. So.
I remember growing up, I had a watch that used to glow in the dark. It had radiant, it had some kind of radiant. Yeah, radiant in it. So that's probably why I'm going to die of cancer. Anyway, thanks, Mike. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy your retirement.
Thanks, Chad.
Okay, let's go to the trash. got to clean up at Hunters Point, San Francisco, all those radium dials from the old Navy ships.
They probably glowed really well. Okay. This brings us to the consent calendar, items 6A through E. We have there.
Anderson's gone.
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Okay, just confirming that Director Nelson is in communication before we take any action.
Yes, I am, President Powell, and I'm in favor of the motion.
Okay, all right, well then we'll do a roll call vote.
President Powell,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada still absent, Director Bianco,
Aye.
Director Aguilar,
Aye.
and Director Nelson.
Aye.
Thank you.
That passed 4-0.
And Mr. President, if I can just clarify for the record, so our YouTube stream on our website and on our YouTube channel is working properly. It's the feed to Zoom, so Zoom participants or anybody joining us via Zoom that does not have video.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so that you could switch over to YouTube and be able to get the video,
Remember, then you can't make comment.
but you won't be able to make comments, so you got to do the comments on Zoom, yeah.
Have to make your comments on Zoom. Mhm.
Yeah, I will confirm that I am watching on Zoom. I am participating via Zoom, and I can see the meeting on YouTube, so.
Good. Yeah, how many fingers are my, all right, never mind. On to the action items. 8A, Armando, go ahead and take this one.
Good morning, President Powell, member of the
Morning.
board, audience, fellow staff. My name for the record is Armando Rodriguez with the Engineers Department. Before you is we're seeking an authorization to solicit bids for construction for the fiscal year 2021 non-potable water pipeline connection projects. Is there, would you like me to proceed with the presentation or?
Yeah, you know, I know we've seen this before, and I know I asked a question last time, and I'm going to ask it again because I'm just not having a clear recollection of the answer, and then maybe that'll lead to part of the presentation. But as we go down Frank Sinatra Drive, right, we're hitting 4 different properties, but there are a number of golf courses to the south, you know, the old Desert Island, the Springs Club, Morningside, Thunderbird, I think. So there's quite a bit of golf in there on the south side, you know, south of Tamarisk and Annenberg. What's the plan for those properties?
Very good question. And for our Frank Sinatra leg that you just referenced, yes, there is connections in addition to Annenberg, Tamarisk, and Rancho Mirage we're targeting now. We're going to come back to you with connection of Desert Island and the Springs. And this facility that we're building now, this pipeline, both the 24 and 18-inch along Frank Sinatra, will be able to take care of those customers as well, so that all we got to do is just do the on-site connection. So all the off-site will be done as part of this facilities that we're trying to plan. In regards to the Tamarisk, those are golf courses and similar to those that are within the channel. We're not allowed to put recycled water within those areas. So we don't have a plan as of today to put recycled water on those golf courses that are adjacent and within the channel.
All right, so like Morningside is in the channel.
Right.
I think even-
Tamarisk as well.
Tamarisk is
I'm
on the
sorry,
list.
Not Tamarisk, Thunderbird.
Thunderbird's in the channel, right? Okay, so that makes those projects less viable because that would be recycled water and it's not allowed. Okay.
Correct. But we're focusing all our energies in trying to maximize, for us to reuse recycled water and do connect with the customers that do want it and have the ability to connect. And so that's why before you, we have the 9 customers. We think this total ability to deliver 5,200 acre feet. And we're focusing on 9 customers: Tamarisk, Annenberg, Rancho Mirage, Suncrest, Tri Palms, Jack Ivy. And then here on Warner Trail Leg, we're focusing on Palm Royale, Indian Wells Tennis Garden, and the Southwoods Community Church. As we have stated in many presentations before, this is to maximize our use of recycled water so that we can be 100% recycled, but then also to be able to take these golf courses off groundwater and be able to deliver further prevent overdraft from the aquifer.
Right. Right. Did any other members of the board want further presentation on this?
John, I think I'm fine on the presentation. I do have a question though.
Sure.
What agency is it that has the regulation that is limiting us from applying recycled water into the channel? I'm a little confused about how these regulations work when a farm producing food products would be required to take water if available, and yet we're unable to, use recycled water to irrigate turf in a channel. So I figured Steve might jump up to the podium.
He already is up here.
Yeah, I see that.
Director Nelson, yes, this ties to the fact that the channel is considered U.S. waters. And just like at our water reclamation plant number 4, we have to disinfect the wastewater, make sure it meets all standards. And then before we deliver it to the channel, we need a special permit through the federal government, an MPDS permit. And we have to remove the chlorine to ensure that there's no chlorine going into the aquatic habitat of the U.S. waters. So as you know, our recycled water is chlorinated, and so that alone would prevent it from going into the channel area.
So the agencies.
That MPDS permit is administered by who?
So that's a federal program through the EPA, and it's being administered through our Colorado River Basin Regional Water Quality Control Board.
So we'd have to remove the chlorine from the water so that the fish that are swimming on the greens at the golf course would be able to survive.
Right.
Okay.
You could use that water to put it into a golf course lake that has fish in it. Maybe we shouldn't tell anyone that there's fish in golf course lakes, but you can't do it in a channel, which, I mean, imagine there's probably zero science that supports the idea that residual chlorine that's sprayed onto turf is going to find its way anywhere. It's going to dissipate before it has a chance to do that, right? So they're not really relying on science. They're just relying on some kind of a regulation that.
It is definitely a unique aquatic environment when you have a golf course in it. So.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I'm supportive of the motion. I just wanted to have that clarification. Thank you so much.
All right. I believe we don't have a motion yet to approve 8A.
I just have a question. I don't think we can, but do you think we'll ever get to a point where we can send 100% recycled?
That's the goal. We do have a plan in place to not only expand within these 3 segments, but then also go north on Bob Hope so that we can connect what we call the Mission Hills golf courses so that we can achieve 100% recycled water.
No. But can we send, if we had enough, can we send 100% recycled water, or does it have to be blended?
Got it. There is times now that we do send 100% recycled water.
Okay, so it's It's fine, okay.
but not,
So it doesn't have to be blended.
we do, because of the demands that we have on the golf course and the ability for us to.
Correct, but it
we
doesn't-
have to blend.
But you don't have to blend.
We blend.
Reblend, but we don't have to blend.
There's,
We're not
there's-
required to blend.
there's no regulation that requires us
That's
to
correct.
blend.
There's no regulation. That was my
Right.
question.
We do it because you need
The demand.
to augment.
We don't have enough
Yeah, to
recycled
augment the
water
water.
to give everybody straight recycled water, so we blend. I get it. Okay. Maybe in the future we will.
Yeah, maybe. Is there a motion to approve 8A? I don't think we have one yet.
No, sir. I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. With no further discussion, let's do a roll call vote.
President Powell?
Aye.
And I still don't see Vice President Estrada. Director Bianco?
Aye.
Director Aguilar?
Aye.
And Director Nelson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Armando. 8B. This is the publish and mail notices for the rack for East and West.
Morning, Zoe.
Hi, Zoe. Good morning.
Good morning, President Powell, members of the board. Today's item is to seek authorization to publish and mail notices of a public hearing for proposed increases to the replenishment assessments in the West and East Whitewater River Sub-Basin areas of benefit for fiscal year 2023. As the board knows, our California Water Code Section 31631.5 requires for the board to consider increases to the replenishment assessments that a public hearing be held, and that two forms of notification be provided of that public hearing. One, to publish a notice, and second, to mail letters to producers of records that may be impacted by the rate increase. I do want to point out a couple of items for the board today. We've provided with this item draft publication, as well as the draft letters that would be mailed out if we're authorized. Those indicate the replenishment assessments that were recommended in the engineer's report. The board is not, by authorizing this mailing, the board is not in any way obligated to adopt that rate. That's what the public hearing is for. Second, I do want to acknowledge that at the May 4th study session, the board did indicate that they wanted to see other options on the rate. So the notices that were attached to the item, they are draft, so we could modify the language to say up to. But we do need the authorization to mail and publish so that the public hearing can move forth on June 14th.
Okay, Zoe, so you correctly sort of recapped that study session. I think that we're going to obviously see some additional numbers soon. And there's a timing constraint on when we have to do these things in order to make the rate change effective by July 1st. So the upshot of that meeting, of the study session, was we think that, especially on the West, that increase could be much less. And so we're going to mail this. Are we going to change what's in the draft right now that we mail? I mean, if we could just make it clear, because what might happen is someone's going to see that and they're going to need to do their budgeting and they're going to say, wow, this isn't going to work, right? And so it might create all kinds of panic and problems that are unfounded if we really don't need to raise the rate that high.
So I can provide the board with two options for consideration. Number one, we can change the draft to say that a rate increase is being considered up to the amount that the notification currently says. The second option is, in reality, it's the government code section that sets the requirements for publication requires a single publication 10 days in advance of the public hearing. In really no requirement on the mailing, but we like to do that, follow the same 10 days. So technically, we have until the end of May to button this up and be able to get the mailing out, get the publication to the Desert Sun on time. My understanding at this time is that the clerk of the board is trying to schedule a meeting, a follow-up study session on or about mid-May to May 18th, May 19th, something like that. So we could wait until after that study session. And again, these are marked draft. So you could authorize mailing it today and we'll update that rate. We can't really wait much longer than that in terms of preparing it and getting things set up, but those are two options.
Right.
Up to,
Right. Well, we have another board meeting on the 24th.
that is correct.
What if we saw this item again on the 24th? Would we still have time?
Because of the timing of getting our regular board meetings scheduled and those board action items, we actually need to have these drafts ready before you would have the study session.
Mr. President, I just wanted to, is there a copy of what's going to be mailed?
It's
I didn't, it's under.
Yes.
you
so-
click on the thing, there's,
So the item includes the draft language, which is what we've used for many years for the Desert Sun publication, as well as the letters that are sent to our producers of record in the subject areas of benefit, in this case, East and West, which that mailing also always includes a copy of the publication. So currently, again, these are marked draft. It includes the rates that were proposed by staff in the engineer's report, but we do have that flexibility in terms of changing the language to put up to, or holding off till after the study session.
well, all right, so I'll make a motion that we approve 8A with the modification that we reserve the ability to change the draft letter after we meet in our study session, which that date isn't, I guess we haven't set that date yet.
I am pending confirmation from 2 board members on their availability.
And but that'll happen before the 24th.
Correct. We're looking at the 18th or 19th, and I'll send out an email to those 2 board members now.
All right.
So
Availability.
the issue there is that it's a study session, not a meeting where the board could take action.
So we would change it to a special meeting from a
So that the
study
board
session.
So that we could take action to make that change to the letter.
Correct.
Correct, and, you know, I'll defer to.
Well, why don't we just move this item to that special meeting then?
Well, if you're actually
not-
looking,
if
if
it
you're
was-
actually looking to change the rate, that would have to occur during a special meeting. If all we're trying to do is send a letter out saying up to, instead of actually coming up with an exact rate, I mean, we could still send the letters now with that adjustment, right?
Yeah,
Saying
well, we
up to-
could, but instead of saying up to 196.79, we might say up to 150 or something like that. I mean, that number might change.
Yes, I understand. I don't know.
I mean, can we do that
Yes, you can authorize sending out the letter at a special meeting where if you prefer to do that, as opposed to saying up to, if you're thinking up to, the amount even in the up to might change, then yes, a special meeting where you can establish what that amount will be.
All right, so why don't we just table this item and bring it back at the special meeting?
Just as long as we're not running up against the deadlines, timelines.
Required by the water
By the way,
code.
we're not really
So-
approving
I
it.
agree. I agree.
We would safely be able to mail the letters and do the publication on time, so long as we have direction on the rate to include in the letters by May 31st.
Well, that's fine then. I mean, I think, and we already have 3 directors that are confirmed for either the 18th or 19th. So, all right,
I'm going to send the email to the 2 now.
Okay.
Just check their availability.
let's do that. Otherwise, I feel like we're not really improving anything today. because we don't know what it's going to say.
Fair enough.
We'll
We'll be sure.
we'll know more at the special meeting.
So then I guess I need to confirm with finance that they'll have recommendations on the rates in time for the special meeting.
I think that's good confirmation.
Well, I saw some vertical head nods, although I didn't hear any voices.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. All right. So is that fine, Jeff? We can just say we're tabling 8A
Yeah,
and
so
we'll bring it back.
there was a motion but no second, so the direction from the board is to bring this back.
And that's 8B.
Okay.
Thought I might have heard 8.
Fair enough.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank
That
you.
way we can do it all in one neat package instead of half and half.
Okay, go second.
Oh, was that we don't need a motion.
If the board
No,
direction
just
is to bring it
table-
back, that's fine.
Okay.
We'll just bring it back next time. Yeah. My motion died. Finance, we're on 8C.
Need a second.
Hi, Carrie.
Doesn't
Morning,
allow any
President
additional
Powell, members of the board. So this item is to accept and authorize the resolution for the grant that's being received related to the Colorado River Basin funding area. So the district is going to be the grant administrator again, similar to what we were handling for CVRMG for the Proposition 1 DAC grant program. So we're receiving a total of $1.1 million. $355,000 is related to the grant administration costs that we're going to be incurring, and then $600,000 for Valley View Mobile Home Park consolidation project, and another $213,000 for our CV Water Counts Regional Water Conservation Program. So this is just to authorize the resolution.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
I'll make a motion to authorize the resolution.
Second.
Mm-hmm. Any input from Director Nelson?
And Director Estrada joined just about 9 minutes ago that I
Oh,
saw.
okay, so we're on 8C. We have a motion and a second. Just wanted to,
Yeah, no, I'm good, John, thanks.
okay.
I'm good too, John.
Okay, well, let's then go to the roll call vote.
President Powell,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Aye.
Director Bianco,
Aye.
Director Aguilar,
Aye.
and Director Nelson.
Aye.
Okay, that passed 5-0. Thanks, Carrie. Next is 8D is the non-potable water agreement with Jack Ivy Ranch HOA. There's a golf course in there, right? Is that included as part of the HOA, is the golf course?
They own it.
The HOA owns the golf, okay, yeah, that's, I live it, go ahead.
So I'm bringing this to the regular agenda for voting because it's a new customer per the board's request. So this is Jack Ivy Ranch, and one of the customers that Armando mentioned in his presentation out on Varner Road. And we already have a line going down El Dorado, crossing the 10 to serve the Classic Club, and then we would just be expanding that line west to catch both Jack Ivy and Tri Palms. So this would be on that leg. And they would receive disinfected tertiary recycled water and canal water blend from Warp 10. And then Director Bianco, to address your question earlier, we do run out of recycled water now in the summer, and we did before the Mid-Valley Pipeline was built, which is why, we built the Mid-Valley Pipeline to supplement that supply so we could supply water year-round to our non-potable customers.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if customers could take it 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. So Jack Ivy right now has a well, and they pay the West rack, which is $165.37 per acre foot. They would be a type A non-potable water customer, and currently that rate is $186.95 per acre foot. So they've signed the agreement stating that they would be willing to use the non-potable water from Warp 10 at a 80-20 ratio, meaning that they would meet their irrigation demand for 80% of the time with non-potable water. leaving them 20% to use their groundwater whenever they wanted to.
Right.
I just want to clarify that we've seen lots of these, right? I mean, this is
It's the
procedure.
standard agreement.
But it doesn't say in there that we have to deliver, right? I mean, if we run out of supplies, right? I mean, say we don't have enough Colorado River water, you know, and we have a limited supply of non-potable water, recycled water, excuse me.
Yeah, that would be a termination clause towards the end of the agreement. So we
Well,
would,
it's not a termination clause, it just
we would
means,
have to terminate if we're not able to provide the water that we've agreed to provide to them.
okay, so what happens if we don't have enough to deliver because our supplies are
I think
short?
we have 120 days to give them notice.
Well, so the customer understands the CBWD's non-potable water supply is subject to interruption,
Right.
and that at the time,
So they have to keep their wells in a ready state.
Yes, able to meet the peak demands in the summer. They're not, they have to have a backup water supply.
Okay. So I mean, if we have cuts to the Colorado River and we don't have enough recycled water,
They
then
can
we
use
can't
their well.
deliver all the demand to all these customers that we're hooking up. And so everybody knows that it could, I mean, you know, we hope not, but that's something that may happen.
Yeah, I believe that we do mention, let me look.
that the customer shall have a backup supply available equal to 100% of its peak irrigation and water demands in ready status.
Yeah, I thought that we mentioned, because it's canal water dependent as well, that there was a hierarchy for use. It is in the type C rates.
Just curious.
In that section 3, Olivia, sources of water, subject to the section
Oh,
above,
yes.
the law, groundwater shall be the secondary source.
Page 3, item 3D, in the event a shortage of available canal water, irrigation water shall conform with CBWD's Colorado River Water Shortage Contingency Plan.
Okay. You covered all the bases, okay.
Yeah. This agreement's been through plenty of iterations over the years. Good. Is there a motion to approve 8D?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that. Any other comments from our remote directors?
No comment.
No comment from me either.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's do roll call vote then.
President Powell?
Aye.
Vice President Estrada?
Aye.
Director Bianco?
Aye.
Director Aguilar?
Aye.
And Director Nelson?
Aye.
Thank you. 5-0.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Olivia.
Olivia. All right, so this brings us to a public hearing. This is a public hearing on the proposed sanitation rates and charges for fiscal years 2023 to 27. At this time, staff will provide a presentation on the adoption of sanitation services rates and charges for fiscal years 2023 to 2027. Following the presentation, we will open the public hearing. Making the presentation is Jeff Keel, Director of Finance.
Good morning, President Powell, members of the board, thank you. Before the board opens the public hearing for the Prop 218 process, I'd like to see if the board has any questions. On the line, we have Eric Colokia from Nugent Strategies and Solutions. And we also have Lutfi Karoof from BB&K, who's our legal expert on Prop 218 issues. I also have a PowerPoint prepared. We can go through that. The only relevant information that changes from what was presented previously is on the slide number 5, which has the rate comparisons with other agencies in the region.
So I do have a question similar to the question that was raised earlier on the rack rates, which is that we had discussed at the last meeting. reworking the numbers and having staff come back and do a presentation. and that we're going to schedule that. So I'm wondering, and I did raise this question, and we did get some feedback from the attorneys Jeff might want to contact on this, but does moving forward with a public hearing obligate us to adopt those rates without further discussion on maybe reducing those? And
No.
is there any risk there?
No, it does not.
Right, and so my colleague Luffy may want to state what the question had been previously that you had raised, Director Aguilar.
So you agree with that then, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Jeff, and good morning, members of the board. As was mentioned, there is no obligation to adopt the rates after the public hearing at the level that they were noted. The board has discretion to adopt them at a lower rate. Once the public hearing is closed, the board also has discretion to continue the item for the adoption of the rates themselves into a later meeting. So the only thing that happened with the notice being mailed out is that a maximum rate was set. The board cannot adopt anything higher than what was in the notice, but the board does have discretion to adopt something that was lower.
But since the hearing was noticed for today, we couldn't just continue the hearing itself, because then that would constitute a need to republish for another 45 days. So it is recommended we open and have the public hearing today, close it, and then the board can decide how it wishes to progress.
Thank you.
Through the budget process.
You know, I'd like to see the average monthly charge per customer. Somewhere when we have our.
So
I don't believe that's on there, is it?
we have it here.
You have it per
slide.
ESU.
Right. So one single-family housing unit is one ESU.
Okay, but what about?
So of our approximately 93,000 residential accounts, we have 106,000 ESUs. So the vast majority of all residential customers are one ESU.
What about commercial and the trailer parks?
Sure. So if we.
Are they 1-to-1 too?
No, they're not. But if you look at the aggregate rate change per ESU, the commercial rate reflected here is 9.2%. And the, excuse me.
So the difference essentially the difference between residential and commercial is that our residential are handled through the county tax, property tax records, and the commercial and mobile home and RVs are basically calculated off of a running average based on the domestic water meter for a 3-year average. So it's a little bit more administrative as far as staff goes, which is why there's a higher rate for commercial mobile homes and RVs.
Thank you, Jim. So to your question, on this chart, you'll notice these are the rates that are the Prop 218 rates that would be adopted. These are representing the maximum. So for fiscal year 23, the next year, the maximum percent increase is 7.8% on residential, and on commercial and RV is 9.2. So to your point, there are some residential homes that are not one ESU, but that percent would remain the same, assuming if they're a 2 ESU, they would still be a 2 ESU. So that percent would be the same.
Yeah, I'm not real concerned about the next year. I'm concerned about what the 5-year thing looks like. That's the big deal. Okay.
Also, so I'd like to just flip briefly to, excuse me, this chart. The last time the board saw this chart, the numbers were different for the comparables. Since that meeting, 5 of 7 agencies have formally raised their rates. So you'll see that average there at the top, 30 3884 for the other agencies.
So is there a reason we're not showing all of the, I mean, I guess you have Valley, San, and Coachella, but we're not seeing, what is it, the city of Palm Springs that runs the one in Palm Springs? Why aren't they on there?
I don't recall why we excluded them. These were the comparables that had been developed previously. We were trying to stay consistent to previous presentations.
What's East Bay? Where's East Bay? What is that? Hemet. Okay.
Well, East Bay is Oakland. I mean, I was looking at Eastern.
I don't know. Is East Bay really Oakland? I mean, what is that?
East Bay Mud?
East Bay Mud.
It's Eastern. All right.
So size-wise, right, Jeff? I mean, these are large utilities like our water district.
Not all are large. Valley Sanitary is pretty small.
Well, Jeff, your consultant is on the line, right?
Yes.
Maybe they could answer this.
Yes. Eric, are you there?
Good call.
I'm here. Thank you, Jeff. As Jeff mentioned previously, these were consistent with comparables that were provided to the board as part of the domestic water fossil service study. So we, like Jeff said, we remain consistent to present the same comparison utilities.
Yeah, I'm more curious about what Palm Springs and Desert Hot Springs are doing than what Oakland's doing.
Yeah, or Coachella. You can't compare to Coachella at all. I mean, Coachella's, as I understand it, they've built infrastructure that's not being used, so that's why they're.
Right.
Yeah, they have a large debt service that they have to pay, and San Diego is huge because they're going to their pure water. They're treating their wastewater to drinking water, or basically to drinking water standards, and then putting it in a lake. But we did have a meeting recently with Desert Hot Springs where they were looking for options to develop areas within our service area. And during that discussion, Mission Springs Water District was also there, and they are building a new treatment plant closer to the area that Desert Hot Springs wants to develop. And it came out during the meeting that Mission Springs sanitation rate is almost twice as high as ours, if I recall correctly. I don't remember the number right now, but that became a little bit of an issue in the meeting because our recommendation was to retain the customers, have Mission Springs charge them our rate, or we would charge them our rate and then forward that money to Mission Springs. But because of the differential, Desert Hot Springs was going to see if they might somehow be able to contribute to reduce the difference. And I don't know where that discussion is going, but.
So I'm on the Mission Springs rate page, and the sewer rates for a customer class single family resident sewer rate is $50.16 a month. So that kind of goes along with what you have to say, Jim, about double the rates. Yeah. The desert water rates are a little bit more complicated in terms of they have different zones with different costs, and there's a monthly treatment cost and then a sewer service charge rate. So, but they're generally in the $29.50 range. So that's I think desert water is very comparable to Coachella, and like you say, Mission Springs is quite a bit more. And I was interested to see that Valley Sanitary District had a Prop 218 rate schedule out there for several years that included kind of the same type of increases that are proposed here as a maximum up to amount. So it's John. In my mind, I think we're competitive in terms of that. Certainly so with Valley Sanitary District, and with Desert, we're probably just a little bit higher, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Any more presentation, Jeff?
If you'd like me to talk more, I'd be glad to, but there's nothing.
I will say this, Jeff, sorry to interrupt, but I'm on the YouTube channel as well, and we have 27 people watching, and so I think it would behoove us to just, go through the presentation on a fairly quick rate. I think we've all seen it before, but I think it would be good to just go through the presentation.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So this is the fifth time in 5 months that we've come to the board doing presentations. I would say that it's been a very involved process. It began last July when we contracted with Nugen to be doing an analysis of our 5-year cost of service study for our sanitation line of business for years 23 through 27. The project really began in earnest in August with data collection of customer data and future operations expenses projections. The first overview was presented last January 18th to the board. We received direction from the board on the need to push out certain capital projects if they weren't mission critical into the future years of the 5-year study. The goal is always to keep customer costs as low as possible while still delivering on our required services for customers. The refinement of the process continued as board input continued and direction was received at 2 additional board meetings on February 15th and March 8th. And then on March 22nd, the board authorized the mailing of the Prop 218 notices, which was done and brings us to today, basically 47 days past the mailing of those notices. The capital improvement budget over the 5 years of 22 to 27 is listed in the report. It is $230 million now, down from the original 302. Also included in this is substantial monies for grants and low-cost loans, which have certainly held the costs down from the old model of using all PAYGO funds as in the past. We've also used significant special restricted reserves, spend down of the supplemental supply charge, and also we're using a $1.3 million injection of cash from the SWSC fund annually. The other key factor that's been part of the board direction is to spend down what has been characterized as excess reserves over target. And I've said many times, finance does not view anything as being excess, but target reserves are minimum levels. But what we are doing is spending down that excess portion over a number of years to the tune of $31 million.
Well, what are
that is pretty much all I have as far as the slides, other than here's the rate schedule being presented per Prop 218, and then the impacts compared to other districts we've already shown. So the monthly increase for the typical residential customer will be $1.91 per month. As Jim reflected, that'll be part of what goes to the tax roll in July.
That's it? Yeah. Service charges. Okay. So why don't we open the public hearing then? This is the time and place fixed for the public hearing on the proposed rate increase for sanitation service fees for fiscal years 2023 through 2027, which is being held in accordance with the procedural provisions of Prop 218. Clerk Ramirez, have we completed proper notification of this public hearing?
Yes, Mr. President, notice of the hearing and the proposed rate increase was given by direct mail to property owners and tenants of real property who may be directly liable to pay the charges for sanitation services, and by legal publication in the Desert Sun. We have, as proof, notice of the hearing from the United States Postal Service consolidated postage statement, standard mail, and proof of publication from the Desert Sun and the affidavit of posting.
Okay, thank you. And council will comment on the purpose of the hearing.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The requirements of Proposition 218 are being followed. The date and time of this public hearing is not less than 45 days after the mailing of the notice. The purpose of the hearing is to hear oral testimony and consider written protests concerning the proposed ordinance, which would authorize the adjustments to the rates. A customer or property owner is not required to provide oral testimony in order to submit a written protest. Written protest must specify that is being submitted in protest, include the customer's or property owner's name, parcel number, and/or service address, and be signed. If written protests against the proposed rates are presented by the majority of the owners of the identified parcels upon which the rates are to be imposed, the board may not impose the adjustment to the rates. If written protests against the proposed rates are not presented by a majority of the owners of the identified parcels, the board may impose the adjustments to the rates if it decides to adopt the proposed ordinance. As explained in the Prop 218 notice, the publications and the agenda for this meeting, individuals wishing to address the board were given the opportunity to provide written comments in advance of the meeting via mail or email. Individuals may provide public comment during this meeting via telephone, through audio access through Zoom. Any protests that are submitted via email must include an image of the person signing the actual signature, and protests must be received by the district prior to the close of the hearing.
Thank you. I hereby declare the public hearing open and will request that those wishing to speak please give your name and property location and limit your comments to 3 minutes. We'll now hear from anyone who wishes to come forward to speak. And I don't see anybody present here, I don't think. Do we have anyone wishing to speak here or online?
I do not see any, Mr. President.
Thank you. Do we have any written communications?
We have no written communications received.
Okay. This is just sort of giving you more time, I guess. So I'm prepared to close the public hearing. However, before I do that, I'd like to provide anyone who would like to submit or withdraw written protest the opportunity to do so. Once the public hearing is closed, state law prohibits us from accepting any further written protests. Are there any other remaining written protests to be delivered to the clerk? Checking your email.
I am, Mr. President. I am checking just to make sure that we didn't receive any via email this morning. I don't see anything as of today.
Thank you. I hereby declare the public hearing closed. We will now have the written protest tabulated. Is it 0?
Not yet.
Did we have some before?
Yes, we
Okay.
received.
And what are they? How many?
Want to go through the...
Do you want to go through the script? Are we there?
Well, I think it says we will now have the written protest tabulated.
I apologize. I was on another page. Okay. So 106,362 notices were sent out, and 97,360 parcels have been identified that could be affected by the proposed domestic water rate increase. I don't think that's correct. In this instance, a majority protest would exist if the district received 48,680 written protests prior to the close of the public hearing. Prior to the close of the public hearing, the district received 37 written protests from qualifying owners and tenants of the identified parcels. A majority protest does not exist, and the board may proceed to consider adoption of the ordinance.
Thank you. Are there any questions by members of the board?
Mr. President, I'd like to recommend that, as with the rack rates, that we table adoption of the rates today until after the staff presentation on the new information that will be delivered to us at the special meeting.
I don't think we were planning on doing any additional information on sanitation at the special meeting. It was just RAC. I don't know, Carrie Oliphant's.
Because I did raise a question about all the rates, so.
If you don't, I would just like to address your
Sure.
question, if that's okay. So we've done numerous presentations on the sanitation CIP as part of the cost of service study. And we listened to all of your concerns back in January, February, and we reduced the CIP and pushed projects out beyond the 5 years as much as we can. And I think we're looking at it 7.8 or an 8.5%, 7.8% rate increase for FY23. And then every year we look at the rates again in conjunction with the CIP and the operating budget. But it's not the CIP that's completely driving the rates. It's also the operation expenses. But we have done as much as we can do to reduce our CIP this year.
Okay.
I just want to be honest.
No, I appreciate that. I guess that wasn't made clear when we had the discussion about rates and coming back, because I was referring to the rates on the rate sheet summary, which includes the sanitation. So, but I would, regardless of what action we take today, I would like more of an explanation on why the mobile home rates are higher. Jim mentioned administrative costs. It's more difficult to manage. But we're making a huge investment in software and technology, and I'm just, why is that number 2 or 3 times higher?
Yes, I'll ask Eric to address that as he prepared the analysis.
Yes, thank you for the question. The rates for mobile home parks and commercial customers, specifically the monthly account charge, are higher than residential because the costs associated with providing that service to those customers on a monthly basis, those services being customer service and billing costs, are higher for the monthly customers rather than the residential customers. Also, there are fewer RV trailer park and commercial customers than residential customers. Therefore, when calculating that rate, the higher cost and the fewer number of customers results in a higher monthly charge for those customers when compared to the residential customers.
Okay, thank you. With that information, Mr. President, I'll withdraw my motion to table.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm just reviewing this other communication right now. So we're looking for a motion to approve this ordinance.
Yes.
1427.4, which includes the authorization to increase rates for sanitation for those 5 years.
Chairman, this is Peter Nelson. I'll make the motion to approve the rates as recommended by staff.
Thank you. I'll second that motion. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
President Powell?
Aye.
Vice President Estrada?
Aye.
Director Bianco?
Aye.
Director Aguilar?
Aye.
And Director Nelson.
Aye.
So, okay, that passed 5-0. Thank you, Jeff, and Eric, and Lufty. Let's see, we are on to 10. With the exception of the one we mentioned earlier, we don't have any written communications.
That is correct.
Then board member general comments. Why don't we start with Director Nelson?
Get off. Okay, I'm off mute here. Okay, great. A couple comments this morning. It was great to see this past weekend that we actually had a storm move through Northern California and drop snow in the Donner Pass with snow and rain, which was very good. And then next weekend we should be well above normal temperatures. So we continue the roller coaster of weather in California. There was some kind of fun stuff happening with the California Farm Water Coalition. This past week, a couple of weeks ago, as you know, the coalition published the Wall Street Journal ad and then had a whole follow-up social media campaign about food security in the United States and potential shortages due to drought and so forth. That was followed up by this past week by a MSN network. Let's see, it was what's the guy's name? Lester Holt did an interview with Joe Bosco, Mike Wade of the California Farm Water Coalition, and Bill Dietrich, the president of that board, and talked about the issues related to drought in California. I thought they did an excellent job representing California agriculture and the challenges we face across the state with the water cuts that are impacting businesses and laborers and small communities and food supply. So that was a very good highlight of the problems that agriculture is facing. Then the other question I have for Jim is on a fiscal year 2022 aging infrastructure extraordinary maintenance report. I think CBWD had 11 projects approved on that through the federal government. I don't know if you have any other information on that to share with us, Jim, or not. So I thought
yes, sir. I forwarded that out to the board yesterday, and we also forwarded a article from Janet Wilson of the Desert Sun. CVWD has 11 projects that have been approved for funding by Reclamation, the bipartisan infrastructure law. It's about $68.4 million altogether. It's a low interest loan. It's not free money. It's about 1.875% interest rate, which results in about a $3 million debt interest charge per year. So staff is looking at how we might be able to take advantage of this, what it might mean to the rate for Canal. All these projects, for the most part, are all irrigation system projects. So it's good news, but along with some good news comes some bad news. So I think we're still trying to reassess when that money might become available. As you may recall, we're still waiting on the $2.7 million that Congressman Ruiz obtained for us at least 18 months ago, if not more. So agencies have to have processes in place in order to basically send the money out, and then there's reporting, follow-up on how the money is spent. So all that stuff has to kind of be worked out. So we're on it, and yes, I think that list is accurate based on what I understand.
Thanks for the report, and congrats on getting those in the queue and potentially fundable to improve our system and save some money. So thanks for the report.
Yes, sir. One other thing, I have asked if staff could develop a map that would show the location of those projects. Not everybody's as familiar with the nomenclature out there in the East Valley as our staff might be, so a map would be helpful just to visualize where the work is being done.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Vice President Estrada.
I don't have any comments.
Okay, thanks. Director Aguilar. Go ahead,
I
Anthony.
want to say thanks for clarifying that, Jim, because that's what I wanted to explain, that I wanted the public to know that that was indeed a loan and not money that was granted to CBWD.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, it's, I'm a little surprised. I thought that all this infrastructure money was grant money, and I didn't know that, all this, because what they say is, it's government printing money, and it's not really. If they're just loaning it to you, you're paying it back. I wonder what they're going to do with it after we pay it back.
I mean, staff has been queried by a number of state and federal agencies because, for the first time in a long time, there appears to be infrastructure money available. It's just different agencies are approaching it, and there are different priorities. I'm not sure. I haven't read the law myself to see whether it's primarily loans or primarily grants, or it's grants for disadvantaged communities and it's loans for agencies, or, how it's being segmented and compartmentalized. But we were asked by Reclamation for a list of projects, and I think we did a fairly good job. I think there was $250 million or $240 million of this first tranche that went out, and I think we got a good share of it. At least I know the folks in Yuma were very happy to see us succeed in that request.
Right. Yeah. No, it's remarkable, really. And the rate's not bad, but we will be paying it back.
Yeah, I think there was one more project, maybe another $4 million, but it wasn't quite shovel ready. So I think they're still kind of waiting to see whether that one will make the cut or not.
So what is the repayment source?
So the repayment will be about $3 million a year.
No, I know, but is it rates? It's going to come out of rates?
It'll have to come out of rates, yes.
It'll come out of the canal fund for the most part.
Yeah, so if we sell 300,000 acre feet, it's $10 an acre foot.
Right.
But it's maintenance that really needs to be done on that system, which is aging.
Yeah, no, it's a big potential problem that we can address now that we were waiting on. Okay, I guess that would be my comment also. So, I wish the Desert Sun had been more clear that we're paying it back. It never said that. Let's see here. Any board requests for future agenda items? Besides the special meeting we're going to be having? Okay. Let's get into the meetings, and Director Bianco, you had the first two, April 14th.
Commission, budget review, we went through updates on property currently owned by the commission and what they're doing to maintain keeping it clean, and then approved property purchasing in Desert Hot Springs and Palm Springs area. And then I was not at the E&E meeting.
Okay. April 26th, we had this meeting with Desert Hot Springs and Mission Springs. Director Aguilar, did you want to start on that?
Jim actually did I think, an excellent summary on the meeting a few minutes ago. But we did meet with our staff and City Hall members, city manager, a number of other staff, as well as staff and board members from Mission Springs, to discuss requests for them to consider some sort of, as it says here, agreement that would allow them to sort of cross jurisdictional lines that provide services to some proposed development that's coming up. And I think we came up with some good ideas, and we're now waiting for some feedback from the city in order for us to proceed.
Right. Potentially a flow agreement.
Correct.
Keeps it out of LAFCO.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's good. Simplifies it I should say. The 27th, discussion with staff regarding projects, Director Aguilar and Estrada.
You know, this meeting was actually requested by Vice President Estrada. I would defer to Vice President for his comments.
Thank you, Director Aguilar. In quick summary, we were trying to get a sense of perhaps what projects would be good candidates for us to submit during the state's budget process. We had a similar opportunity last year. We were able to secure $7 million via Assemblymember Garcia. And I think we just wanted to get a full scope of all projects that we're working on. And that's what we did. Staff went over several sanitation projects, some water projects that we've been working on. I think one of the other ideas that we threw out there, and I think Jim, he's supposed to maybe give us some sort of responses. Also, some of the projects that Zoe's working on based on wells that need to be drilled for monitoring purposes. And so it was just really for us to kind of get a sense of what might be good projects for us to point at if there's a chance for us to ask for some money at the state. But it was a good call. You know, there's a lot of projects that we're working on, and so we were able to kind of get a sense of that.
Thank you. We had the 28th, we had the CVEC tour, Director Estrada.
Yeah, that was for me. It was good to be there. I hadn't really had the chance to be able to visit a lot of the infrastructure that I was able to see on that day. We went to one of the geothermal plants up by Nyland. Did you say Nyland or Neeland?
Nyland.
Yeah, so we went there. We went to one of IID's plants. I think it was one of their gas turbine plants. Big plants. I think has over 100 megawatts of capacity. They had a big battery storage there that we also got to see. And we went to one of the drops. I believe it was maybe drop number 4. But anyways, we got to see a lot of that. Kind of heard about some of the issues with the energy situations. We heard about them going after grant money for one of their transmission mains. One of their bigger transmission lines. I think it might be the K line or the L line, but we provided letters of support. So that's a big project that they're going to start working on. But a lot of us were there. Mayor from La Quinta, some of the council members from there, some of the other cities. So it was, you know, we were out there all day, and we at least were able to see a lot of stuff. So that was a good tour.
Thank you. Okay, Salt and Sea Authority, Director Bianco.
Review of federal and state activities on Salton Sea.
Thank you. May 3rd, Director Estrada, your retreat.
Yeah, those are some virtual. It's 2 days. So that on May 3rd, it was the first day we had it, and I think the next one's coming up maybe Friday. But it seems like the state is working on this, what they're calling racial equity action plan, and they have a number of goals, or I think they're trying to figure out how to best perhaps be able to connect with the community that they try to serve as it relates to, you know, this big effort on trying to make water accessible for everyone, regardless of where you live. And I think there's a lot of attention that's being put on communities that that seem to just, have a number of different issues when it comes to being able to tap into what seems to be sometimes resources in government. So they're putting a lot of focus on this. It was a lot of the water board staff, Joe, Amanda, Michelle, everybody was there, and they invited a number of different people across the state to kind of have a more open, frank conversation about how perhaps the water board can create a plan that would allow them to better connect with the communities that they're trying to help. And so they're talking about even recruitment, staffing of the water board, to perhaps maybe change the culture. So anyways, real just, close conversations, open conversations, and it was a good meeting, and we have another one on Friday.
Good, thank you. Okay, May 3rd, Coachella Irrigated Lands Coalition met in person and virtually. Director Nelson, were you there? I think you were there, right?
Well, yes, I was there, John. Thanks.
That's right.
I think,
remember.
We did a lot of budgeting and website review and trying to, have some good input on how the Irrigated Lands Coalition is operating and meeting the regulations that the regional board has laid out. A couple of items of interest was that we had one community reach out. We've actually reached out to the community quite a bit, but this was a good community reach out to growers who fall under the regulation but have not submitted any of their information required by the regional board. And so we partnered up with the Resource Conservation District in order to reach out to those growers who had not signed up and are not in compliance. And so that was a good meeting. There were quite a few people there, quite a few new growers. And so we appreciate the Coachella Valley Resource Conservation District Board for allowing us to partner up with them in that regard. Then we also had quite a bit of discussion about the requirements to take fish tissue samples in the channel and how difficult that is because we're having a hard time getting a permit to catch the fish because of the desert pupfish and how problematic that is. And we're making some recommendations to the regional board about that. We'd really rather use sediment samples for legacy pesticides and some other constituents. And so it seems to make more sense from a permitting perspective, rather than having a guy out there with a fishing pole trying to catch the fish. It was a good meeting, interesting. I thought it was very productive.
Excellent recap. Thank you. Yeah, I was there also, but you covered it well. Board study session on the 4th of May. Official meeting, so we don't need to report. And then, are there any other meetings we should report on?
John, I just wanted to mention that on Saturday, the 7th, we had the second in a series of community meetings with residents of the Ocotillo Park area in Cathedral City for the prospective sewer project. Both Scott and Armando were there and appreciate their time and the questions that were asked and going to the next steps.
Great.
Yeah, I have a couple, John, to report.
Go ahead.
On April 1st and April 14th, those were both 7 Basin States Principal Secretary had given a letter to the 7 basin states about proposed actions of holding drawer releases and withholding water moving from Lake Powell to Lake Mead. And I failed to report on those 2 meetings, 4-1 and 4-14. There were a number of meetings, during the month that we met with the 7 basin states principal coordinating committee, for which we added in that metropolitan and imperial irrigation district with who potentially face greater impacts, and so wanted to get their read-ins on these actions and California's response to those, as well as the coordinated letter, which went out to the Secretary on April 21st, and Assistant Secretary Trujillo has since answered that letter back with agreement that the 2 actions will be taken, both the DROA releases from Flaming Gorge to Lake Powell and withholding of the water from Powell to Mead. I think California's impacts on those were, we couldn't really in the letter outline kind of a payback schedule, as it were, but recognition that the Bureau, the states, and specifically California, will be in constant communication about the accounting of that $480,000 and how it can move back to Lake Mead at a future date. So a lot of discussions regarding that. And then the last meeting I have to report on that somehow didn't get on my list was on April 6th. I was a speaker at the Salton Sea Summit that was held in Palm Desert, and I gave a water report to the group about the current conditions of Lake Powell and Lake Mead, and how I think it really did set the tone. We had on the panel, Tina Shields was on my panel with the Bureau of Reclamation, and myself, and then there was another Tetra Tech engineer who had a real long-term outlook on water in the Colorado River Basin. And so I gave a fairly dire report. The Bureau added on to with their 5-year study, and then Tina did an excellent job with how they committed to conservation measures and contributions across the basin and in California. So it was a good panel, well received, and I think a number of you may have been there. I know Jim was there. Thanks for coming, Jim. And so that's my report.
Thank you. Anybody else? Is there a motion to approve per diem for the meetings reported on?
Move approval.
Second. Roll call, please.
President Powell?
Aye.
Vice President Estrada?
Aye.
Director Bianco?
Aye.
Director Aguilar?
Aye.
And Director Nelson?
Aye.
That
Thank
passed 5-0. General Manager report.
Yes, sir. First and probably most importantly, if Scott Burrett were here, he'd handle this personally, but he's out today and tomorrow. But I want to introduce to the board Andrea McCullough, who is our new communication officer. You may recall when Katie left, I took the opportunity to smash a couple of parts of the organization back together, but I told Scott I'd maintain the position so that he could have a supervisor over communications. And so that's what Andrea's going to be doing for us. So thanks for applying and good luck.
Welcome.
Then I already talked about the reclamation low interest loan. Yesterday I watched a special meeting of the 3 cities of La Quinta, Indio, and Coachella speak about the Indio proposal, which is being developed by, I guess, primarily Bryant Montgomery, the city manager of Indio, that would propose allowing the cities and the unincorporated part of the county to develop and apply an electrical surcharge to the IID bills in order to create a fund that would allow for new substations, upgrades to existing substations, and potentially even transmission and generation capacity for IID. Without getting too far into the weeds, it was generally approved by everybody there. It was just a special meeting, so there was no action taken, but all of the cities will now basically take that back to their own constituents, hold information meetings, and potentially even some action meetings. But they do feel that it'll take probably about 2 or 3 years to develop enough money to actually be able to sell bonds to purchase the infrastructure that development will need in order to move forward. We don't have a direct role in that. I'm just maintaining my involvement for visibility of what happens. They asked me if I wanted to be a panelist, and I declined. As far as COVID, the stuff we normally talk about, we did recently have what is technically defined as an outbreak in 2 parts of the organization, where we had more than 3 positive cases in a short period of time, which then requires those folks to be tested. But the folks in the workspace then have to wear masks for 10 days. And it's not just in their space, although people that walk by and walk through those spaces don't have to wear masks. The people that work in those spaces do. It's one of the, I guess, strange Cal OSHA requirements, and so that's what we're doing. You can tell by looking out into the audience, perhaps where those outbreaks occurred. But we have had 260 recovered qualifying cases overall since this started way back over 2 years ago. We have got 7 direct contacts right now, and so we've got 1 qualifying case, 7 direct contacts, so that equals 8 people off work. 459 have shown proof of vaccination, so I think we're still in pretty good shape there. And we are not taking any action on the exemptions, but we have 19 religious exemption requests and 2 medical exemption requests. As you understand, as I understand it, the requirement for CVWD staff to be vaccinated under the federal administration's requirement that federal contractors be vaccinated is still held up in the courts. So until that resolves itself, we're just not going to take any action one way or the other.
Right, good. Thank you.
And that's all I've got, sir.
Good. Are there any departmental reports? Council.
And there is no general counsel report today.
Council reports? None. Department reports?
Well, we've got a couple of hardcore departments still represented here. Most everybody else has gone back to work, so I don't see anybody rushing to the microphone. We have a couple of minutes before Buzz actually disappears for class.
Well, then let's go. So at this time, the board will recess into closed session to discuss the items on the agenda. We will reconvene here to report out of closed session after we complete that.
He actually goes at 9:50, so 10 minutes.
Oh.
I don't know that we're going to get much done in 10 minutes.
Okay. Back on. The regular meeting is hereby reconvened. We have 1 reportable action, and Council Frey is going to handle that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. On a motion by Director Powell, President Powell, second by Director Aguilar, and a vote of 5-0, the board authorized the general manager to sign a letter of support from the Class A state water contractors requesting the State Water Resources Control Board to move the voluntary agreements forward as an alternative to the Bay Delta Water Quality Control Plan. That was for item 14A. That was the only reportable action.
Thank you. And with no further business, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.